and it stars a one Gwynlyn Lee, Caroline Bracken, Tyga Murphy, Caroline Minton, Jonathan French, and Steve Wall.
I was like, Tyga's in this? I didn't remember Tyga being in this.
Hello. Do you want to play a game?
What's your favorite scary movie?
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
See dead people.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Here's Johnny.
The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Welcome to Talking Horror with Jamie and Nikisha.
Hi, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Nikisha, and this is Talking Horror with Jamie.
And Nikisha.
Where we share our love for all things scary and talk horror through the lens of human behavior. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome.
I don't think we've done our, I know producer Brian puts that in. One more time?
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Beautiful.
Had to do with that. Making up for last time.
Yeah. You've been inconsistent, but I always put it in the noise, so there's a consistency there. Yeah.
Thank you.
I just was gonna say, I'm sure you probably put it in each episode, but we just
you don't know
consistently
because you
do
don't
it.
listen to our own episodes.
And you know, in saying that reminds me of Kevin from our friend podcast Broadwasted, who also never listened to the podcast, right?
Yeah.
he
Truthfully,
says,
I only listen to it because I edit it.
right.
I lived it.
Sometimes on long, yes, right. I lived it. That's what Kevin says. I lived it. I don't need to listen to it again. But sometimes on long drives, I will just like check in and be like, oh, I wonder what sounds Brian put under the Scream one, or I wonder like what did we talk about in this, and I'll listen to it sometimes. So
Sure. I've been lazy lately. I've only really been doing the air horn. I haven't done like, if you listen to some of our earlier episodes, like I really go all in on the sound effects. Recently, I've just been like, no, gotta edit and get this out for the people.
I mean, we gotta give the people what they want.
We gotta give the people what they want.
Because it is October, so we are knee deep in spooky season, and we're continuing on with all of the fun, talking about the 2024 Irish horror film Oddity.
Woo.
Creepy people, creepy woodmen, yay. Exciting times. So this movie was written and directed by Damien McCarthy, and it stars a one Gwynlyn Lee, Caroline Bracken, Tyga Murphy, Caroline Minton, Jonathan French, and Steve Wall.
I was like, Tyga's in this? I didn't remember Tyga being in this.
I tried to phonetically spell out the Irish name.
Sure.
And I put Tyga. Anyway, and I also watched a video of Saoirse Ronan saying this name and still.
Oh, is it? It's like that clip from like Jimmy Fallon or something where like he gives. Or no?
It's from Colbert.
Colbert,
Yes.
That's so
and
funny.
she's saying it's Tyga. I don't know, but yes, in my American accent. But yeah,
I love it.
Sorry, everyone.
Sorry, everyone in Ireland.
We're trying our best.
Hashtag.
Just doing our best.
Just doing our best. And really doing our best because I love Ireland. I love everything about Ireland. If I could move there, I would. Most people know this about me. So let me find me an Irish guy and then he can help me pronounce the names and it'll be great. And we'll all be happy.
That sounds very sexy.
Yes. But we're here to talk about Oddity. So heavy spoilers. It is streaming on Shudder. And Jamie, please hit us with those trigger warnings.
It's creepy.
Very
interesting.
There is reference to, Oddity's curio, like weird, creepy stuff. I'd also say maybe some like loose witchy vibes.
For sure.
Some witchy adjacent vibes. Clairvoyant stuff. If any of that creeps you out, that's just a heads up. There is also murder. They do start with murder. It is a murder mystery kind of ish. Cannibalism is referenced. ghosts.
Lots of them.
Lots of ghosts.
Mhm.
Also, if you're like me and you get annoyed at like poor representations of mental illness and people in facilities, that there might be some pings of annoyance.
We have another inductee into the
Oh.
worst
The Bad Doctor.
the Bad Doctor
Yeah.
award. I'm excited to talk
Yeah.
about him. Yeah.
Oh, this is like a complete tangent, but I forgot about how we watched all the Chucky movies, and there's definitely an inductee into the worst therapists of all time in that series as well.
Oh, definitely. Yes.
Which movie?
That just made me think of it.
In Cult of Chucky.
Cult.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one with the woman in the wheelchair with the.
That's the second one when
okay.
she's been committed. Yeah.
Oh,
she's
got it.
hospitalized for the murders that took place in the previous one that she's in.
Curse
Yeah.
of Chucky. Yeah.
We're
Chucky experts now.
I love
Chucky
that so
pros.
much. Chucky pros. I'm gonna send you guys a good guy doll in the mail. Just
No. No Ouija boards, no good guy dolls, like no Billy puppets.
I could deal with the good guy doll. That one doesn't bother me as much.
No,
Brian.
no, thank you. You keep it upstairs. You can put it in your background. I don't want a good guy doll.
Yeah, slip it
No,
under
thanks.
the covers, and then you're gonna get into bed.
If you send us a good guy doll, I'm sending you porcelain dolls with like huge eyes that don't close.
Okay, got it. I won't do it. I won't do it. Promise.
We'll make sure that they're like from like a cabinet of curiosities type place.
Yeah.
They might carry spirits in them.
Honestly, that sounds very expensive, so you can do whatever you want.
Like that's why the good guy doll doesn't freak me out, because like what you just described is way scarier. Those like creepy porcelain dolls with like their like blinking eyes that don't blink at the same speed.
Sure.
Those are carrying many souls within them.
Yes.
So many souls.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
100%.
I don't want that. I do not want that. But I'll take a silly plastic doll.
Right. That's just like makeshift, whatever. But I will say, in the realm of dolls, if y'all ever see a doll called No Name Doll, it's from the 80s. And it was a doll to teach kids empathy. And so it was this doll that was homeless and looked homely and has one tear, a single tear falling on her face. If anybody in the podcasting world, if you guys find it, please, there is a commercial. For some reason, I just want one of those dolls. So if you find it, it's a no name doll. So
That's
no,
terrifying.
Thank you. I don't like it.
I can't wait. Please watch when you get the chance. Just please watch a commercial for it. It's wild that they sold that doll to people.
That's
and
crazy.
Kids
So
but
that was a lot of doll trigger warnings for us.
that was doll parlor talk.
Yes.
That was a doll parlor talk.
Come, sit, have a drink. It's parlor talk.
There's a creepy doll mannequin golem. Golem actually is probably the most accurate description of what it is.
Okay.
Sure.
Not to be confused with Gollum.
Which is what my first brain thought. And then
but Golem is a golem of some sorts, for sure.
I don't think that's true.
Anyway, also trigger warning for twins. If you don't like twins, this movie's not for you. Or trapdoors.
Or trapdoors, my God.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Camping inside.
No. Being in a place that doesn't have service.
Oh, yeah. Freaky drawings.
Oh, yeah. Creepy drawings. Yeah.
Evil bellhops.
That's a lot.
Oh, evil bellhops. And, like video found footage. This movie had like a little found footage in it, which I loved. I'll talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
But,
that's good.
Yeah.
Great. Well, producer Brian, please give us some words before we get into it.
Oh, yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. Hi, YouTube.
Wow.
Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on TikTok. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter at Talk Horror Pod. I've been watching a lot of horror movies this month. And I'm trying to do my best keeping up with all the reviews on there. Everything we don't do on here, we'll do on there. We'll do some fun things. I'm having fun with a new filter where we rank horror movies. They just like randomly choose 5 and you rank them blindly. It's a lot of
Oh
fun.
yeah.
I've had some really good experiences and some really horrible experiences. So that's fun. And we're doing a lot of lists and countdowns. I have a new one coming out soon. 13 Hidden Gems on Netflix. I did a Shudder one. I'll be doing a sequel to that one in terms of just like helping you pick some movies for your next horror movie night. So check a lot of that. Also, my Chucky rankings, as I mentioned, are on there. Check all that out. So we're doing a lot more than just the podcast. If you wanted to join our talking horror community.
Woohoo! Super exciting times.
Mhm.
Okay, well, you talked about watching some stuff, Brian. What are some things you want to share with the people that you have been watching?
All right, so the last 3 movies that we watched that I don't think we talked about here, where I finally finished Frogman,
Oh
Um,
yeah.
the found footage movie. I thought it was great. I think Frogman is just what you think it is. It's a really good found footage horror movie. It's very silly. It's really fun. It's definitely scary in some places, and it clips along really nicely. Um,
Okay.
Me watching it in multiple parts is not about my boredom of it. That's not the case. It's just like how it worked out in my life right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I really enjoyed it. I think it's totally worth it, especially if you like found footage. It gives Ratma vibes in some places. It gives
love
at the end it gives a little bit of Deborah Logan vibes. Deborah Logan's much better, but like just in
Yes.
terms of what I was feeling. But I really enjoyed it, so I would highly suggest watching Frogman if that's something that you're into. It's only an hour and 20 minutes, so it's not like this like wild romp. It's a very quick, fun movie.
Okay.
I also watched on Hulu Mr. Crocket.
Oh my god, I did too. I forgot I watched that.
Oh, wait, before I say anything, what did you think? I'm very curious.
That's funny.
Oh my god, I literally on a random morning watched it. I had to watch it in 2 parts just for the nature of the scheduling.
Yeah.
But for what it was, I had a good time. It was just wild and crazy, and I liked the prosthetics stuff. Some of
Yeah.
and it wasn't anything that was like, oh, this is excellent horror. But I will just say, it's just as watching Black people do horror stuff, it was just
Yeah.
funny. It was fun to just see like a random kind of a little bit of a comedy-esque, like very gory, but like, just kind of mid horror movie. Like I just had a good time watching
Yeah.
it, and I was laughing a lot at it in
Yeah.
a good way.
I also found that when the highs were high in Mr. Crocket, it soared. When the
Yeah.
lows were lows, I was bored out of my mind.
Yeah.
Because I
Hmm.
felt like a lot of the non-horror scenes, if you will, needed to be more layered. I thought that the little kid was just like a one note. He was written as like a one note, like I don't listen. And like his
Awful
arc,
kid.
awful kid. I also think that the acting was subpar across the board. I also
Yeah.
think that it was incredibly predictable and by the numbers. However, when it really works, like in the practical effects, in the
Yes.
blood and the gore, in just the high concept of it all, it is really fun to watch. And
Yes.
I would absolutely watch a sequel of this.
Oh, absolutely. I would absolutely watch a sequel of this. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just like a fun, I don't know. I kind of equate it to the scary movies, but not, even though they're taking themselves more seriously, but just in the way that I watched it. It was like, oh yeah, this is just a fun thing to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Super
was fun.
Mhm.
And then Jamie and I rented Beetlejuice, and we watched that.
And how'd you feel about
Mhm.
that?
It was both had a lot going on and also like not really a plot.
It was too many characters. What was happening? Yes.
So
There was, yeah. I don't understand why now I'm not gonna remember her name. The one who plays like his wife.
Right. Mhm.
Monica
Like
Bellucci.
she like didn't have anything to do like she could have just not been in this movie and
had-
nothing would
yeah.
have changed.
Nothing would have changed. Agreed.
Yeah, once the plot gets going. So once I don't want to spoil anything here, but once the plot gets going and the let's just say they cross over into the underworld, which you know from the trailers. Once that gets going, like, it's fun. This is skip ahead. Actually, no, I take that back. Skip ahead like a couple minutes if you don't want to hear about Beetlejuice, because we're probably not going to cover it, or at least not now. This is what needed to happen to make Beetlejuice better. The first hour of this movie is like all exposition. It's like catching us up and whatnot. This is what you needed to do. You needed the father to already be dead at the beginning of the movie. You needed them all, maybe start the funeral, or the funeral already happened. Lydia should have showed up late to Delia's opening, but Delia really needed her, not because she found out that her husband died, but because this was her first opening without her supportive husband, and she needed her family there. So you're setting up this stepmother dynamic, and then you have the other mother dynamic and the grandmother dynamic, and you're setting all of that up. 2, you should have and to kind of get their mojo back and whatnot, they go back to the house or whatever. 2, you needed to not show the underworld or Beetlejuice until they actually called him. Showing Beetlejuice before, this should have been from the human's perspective 100%. And the first time that we should have seen it is when the Justin Theroux character calls it, and they go into the therapy office, which was very funny, great scene. So that's something that else should have happened. 3, I mean, as Jamie said, you cut Monica Bellucci completely. She had no plot reason to be there. So you cut all of that. And then the Willem Dafoe character, I think, was funny, but you didn't. All you had to do was have the Willem Dafoe character be chasing Beetlejuice and Lydia in the afterlife. You do not need him to be like chasing and trying to find Monica Bellucci. That doesn't matter. So that's the other thing. And then everything else kind of works out for itself there, and so you get and all of that kind of works out nicely. You can keep the same marriage church scene at the end. You can keep all of that stuff, but you also cut it down 20 minutes. It's snappier. You still keep all the cool Beetlejuice stuff. You keep all that like fun stuff. So I think that's how you fix that movie. But I'm also going to play devil's advocate to myself and just say that maybe the bloatedness of it adds to like the fun that Tim Burton was having making that movie. So like, like even though there were a lot of fun Tim Burton moments that he was able to create that didn't feel like him pretending to be himself. It actually, he looked like he was actually having fun making this movie. And I think that's what elevated it from it as a Tim Burton fan for me in some ways. But like once what's her name went into the underworld with the boy, that's when I got excited about the movie. That kind of like, and then the rest of that was a lot of fun. But like before that, I was like, also the Justin Theroux character needed to be cleaner and more concise. I thought like there was no mystery to it. Just there was something off about his character. I don't think the movie knew exactly what his purpose was, except for the turn at the end, because he's almost like too like mustache twirling manipulative to her, Anyway, this is not a Beetlejuice episode. I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop there.
Yes. No, but I agree with all of it. I just thought that if you cut it down a little bit, then you still would have serviced the fans and had like a really good sequel. But and someone also commented, so I'm not going to take credit for this, and said that they should have had it where it left off, where Beetlejuice had a number in his hand and was like waiting, and like his first interest should have been them like calling the number in the underworld of him, and then him being called out of the underworld into the house by,
that's funny.
Right. I was like, that was hilarious. That would have been great.
That's really funny. And I like that. I'm into that.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry to take up the oddity time. If you were listening, you're like, oh, these fucking assholes. I just want to hear about Oddity, but this fucking jabroni kept going on. I'm sorry.
Listen, this is a talking horror, okay? So we are talking.
Emphasis on the talking.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm good at that part. I'm the talking. You're not
We're
the
the
horror.
horror.
My talking is the horror. Yeah.
Screaming. Well, you're gonna have to talk some more, Brian, because we need a plot summary of Oddity.
Oh, I always forget.
What's the plot?
Damn.
You
got. So we're gonna have a 2-minute plot summary of Oddity by producer Brian, and Jamie is going to count them off.
I have so many timers set, and the first one was 30 minutes, and I was like, nope, that's
Nope.
Not
far
that.
too long. So we're gonna just remove 28 minutes from that, and you have 2 minutes on the clock to summarize Oddity for us. Are you ready?
Yes.
Amazing. Ready, steady, go.
A woman named Danny is killed in her new house that she's renovating with her husband, Dr. Ted, who works at the local psychiatric hospital. One of the patients who was recently released came and told her that someone went into the house, let him in so he can search for them. She didn't believe him, and she is murdered. So we think that this guy did it. It's a year later, and the husband visited Danny's twin sister Darcy, who is blind, owns an oddity shop, and has the power to kind of like see where items have been by touching them. So it's the year anniversary of the death. This person was put to death for killing the wife. And so the Dr. Ted has a new girlfriend. Anyway, she basically the twin invites herself over to their house that he now lives in with the girlfriend for the 1 year anniversary. And she tells him the story of this bell, this with a killer bellhop and whatnot. Okay, so we get to that. Wow, we get to the house, and she suspects something is weird. And she brings a big wooden man. The big wooden man is there to she basically can take over control of that big wooden man. The house is haunted with the ghost of her sister. She's uninvited. She stays. The doctor goes to work. Long story short, lots of creepy stuff happens. The girlfriend ends up leaving. What we find out is that Dr. Ted had one of the orderlies who used to be a patient kill his wife. And so now the sister knows all about it. The sister actually killed the guy who she thought first, and then she's killing this guy. And Dr. Ted admits it, but Dr. Ted, there's a trap door. She's blind. Dr. Ted gets her to fall into the trap door. She dies, but not before she attacks the orderly with that. And then at the end of the movie, the doctor has a cannibal eat the orderly, and at the very end, he gets a box with the bell. They're all dead except for him, and the girlfriend doesn't take him back. He gets a box with the bell, and he's like, whatever, and he rings it, and then the killer bellhop is there to get him. The end. That's Oddity.
And that's the plot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, that was actually. I feel like we've been doing a lot of like slashers recently,
Yes.
so it's kind of like this guy gets released, he kills a couple people, and at the end this is how they get him back into his hole. But this one's definitely a little bit more complex for sure.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Lots of twists and turns, like we said, kind of like a whodunit in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Great. So let's start off with our first section, likes and gripes.
And now our likes and gripes.
So Jamie, would you like to go first?
Sure. I really like this movie. This is definitely going to make it onto my top list at the end of the year for sure. I think it was incredibly concise. I like the narrative that it takes us on, and like all the questions are answered at the end very neatly. We even went back and like revisited some scenes to kind of like see where they actually gave us some information. So for
that was fun.
example, it was fun because we were like, wait, there was a moment at the end of it where I was like, wait a minute, I remember seeing the doctor husband like looking at pictures of the golem statue thing. Like, when did that happen? And we went back, and he's like rifling through papers, and he sees a picture that one of the people in the hospital had like drawn of the creature thing, because that was when she had come to kill the other guy. And it was like, oh, that's what happened. So like all of those things, like even if you don't realize it at first, like you get through the whole movie, and like they really do kind of like, they pack in a lot of stuff, but it doesn't feel overwhelming. It really like they give you just enough of everything, to the point where I even like the feeling I was left with was, man, I want to live in that cabinet of curiosities shop. I want like so much. I want to know everything about every single item in that shop, like so badly. But I don't want them to ruin it with like 1,000 movies. So like,
with like
you know,
different
yeah, because they
items.
wouldn't be as good. But that's like what I want. Like that's like in my deepest desires is like I want a whole series on like every item.
At first I thought you were gonna say you wanted to live in the house, and I'm like, Jamie, are you
No,
okay?
no. No,
But the
I
shop,
couldn't like
okay.
it wasn't even like a house. Like I was very confused about the layout of this
Yeah, it was
home.
weird.
I mean, it didn't take away from my enjoyment of the movie. I just was very confused. Because I was like, is it like a barn? Like how much of it is outdoors? But I mean, I don't know if does it take place in Cork or is that where the
It
store is?
does.
That's
Okay.
where
No,
the
they filmed in
store is
County
in
Cork.
Cork, but
Okay.
they live somewhere in
They're
like
like out
the
in like
Irish
the
wilderness.
boonies of
Yeah.
the boonies in Ireland. Yeah. I've never been to Ireland. I'd love to visit and then maybe get a tour of all these places so that I have some more context.
We'll go on the Oddity Ireland tour.
Yeah,
That
take
would
me
be
to that
fantastic.
shop.
Not sponsor.
But I like that. I think my favorite thing, because we've talked about this before, but this is definitely a movie where they don't treat their audience like a bunch of dummy heads. Like like they're really thoughtful in like again how they're presenting the story, but they're not like making it so like obvious from the start. They're presenting a lot of like really interesting like questions, and you're like, what's really going on? And there was a moment that passed in my brain where I was like, it's got to be out of all of these people, like it's got to be the husband behind it, right? Because like all the true crime will tell you like the husband's behind it. But I do also feel like there was so much other stuff going on that it was kind of like a nice distraction from like jumping straight to the like it's got to be him kind of thing.
That's a great point.
But I will say, really, my only gripe of this, and maybe if I think about it from the perspective of this is somebody who's like clearly a narcissist, the husband's excuse for why he had to kill his wife as opposed to simply divorce her like a regular schmegular person was like, oh, she would just be devastated. So like I have to murder her.
He literally said, she can't live without me.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna kill her.
So
yeah.
so Jamie, I want to jump off of that because that's also in my gripes, not gripes. Whoa, splash! No. That's also in my gripes, not gripes section because I love how everyone in this movie is like, why didn't you just like divorce her? Like, why did we like whatever?
What
like,
are we doing?
And then he said the line like, oh, she would never have, whatever. She would have never gotten over it. But the throwaway line of the whole movie that made the most sense is like, and then she would have gotten the house. It was all about the monetary real estate. That's all it was about. And that's why she's haunting the house, because like he doesn't get it. It's still hers. Like the real estate line just made this whole movie click into me, and his character and everything. Like that was I loved it. I thought that line really spoke volumes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but it also, I think again, it's like it is silly for him to be like, oh, she can't live without me, so like she gotta die. But like again, the real estate, all of that stuff was just like, it's just this ego, like self-absorbed, way of thinking that he has, and like that's like the narcissist element, I would say, and that feels more believable. But like I think it was, if you take it at face value, it sounds sillier, but I do think that it just speaks to like he's obviously this like maniacal person. Like it's also clear that like they started that him and the girlfriend started the relationship while he was still married, like all of this stuff. And it doesn't have to be like super obvious again, because they're not treating us like dummies. You're picking it up from like context clues and like questions being asked, and it's
and
all
reactions.
So it's all very clever. I also I mean, this is a movie that also like really scared me. And I feel like I don't, unless it's something that's like really obviously jump scares, which like I will always jump from a jump scare. Like you're trying to get me, but like there was I just feel like, first of all, the golem creature thing is really unpleasant to look at, like
Yeah.
deeply unsettling. Like, sure, they could have made a creature that, can be possessed and whatever, and be powerful and like kill people, but like, why is his mouth got to be open like that? You know how I
Why?
feel about mouths.
Mouth.
Why would you do this to me where he's just
Oh.
sitting there with his mouth wide open, and it's so unsettling every time someone
Yeah.
looks at him and he's staring at them with his mouth open, and I hated it. I hated it.
It's something also about it being wooden as well. I can't put my finger on it,
Yeah.
but it makes it even more creepy, the choice of a wooden textured face. And I don't know, maybe just how the shadows work on it and how it looks even older than it is. Like the man's face looks so old
Yeah.
and creepy. I don't know, but yeah.
And there's also something about the wooden that like makes you know that it was handcrafted. There's something like a certain energy to it being wood, knowing that like someone had to actually like, take a big piece of tree and then make this man out of it. You know what I mean? If that's how it was even created in the first place.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It was awful. I hated it. I also like the reveal for it too, because you didn't see it right away. You see that a chest got delivered. First, you see her like crying in front of a chest. Then you see a chest gets delivered. Then you see the reactions of other people looking at it. And I was like, yo, when are we going to see what's inside of this chest? And then they finally show it to you. And I'm like, wait, go back and put it back in the chest because I don't want it to be around. So like, I feel like that was also really creepy. I really enjoyed how the bellhop story, like she tells it and then you kind of forget about it for like the entirety of the film, and then it resurfaces, and it's like a really nice bow, I feel like, at the end of the story. And again, it also speaks to like his disbelief of her powers and like what she's doing, and like him just kind of like blowing her off. And so knowing that I don't even need to see it, but just knowing that he's going to get his comeuppance is very satisfying. This is a movie that delivers a very satisfying ending. Because like the main, like, because both his wife and her sister, like they, like, it's really disappointing when her sister dies after she's like doing all of this to try to like solve what happened. But like, there's also something in there where she always knew and was always going to like get the revenge on the husband, because otherwise the bell wouldn't have ever been delivered.
Right.
So I really like that she's like, I'm gonna get you no matter what. But it is sad. I was really sad when she died.
That bothered me, like, because I was so invested.
But that's why I was like, okay, it does end with like he's gonna get his, and that makes me feel a little bit
good
better.
old happy ending.
Yes. These are the endings that I really look for in my film. Yes, revenge. But like this type of revenge specifically. I like movies that end with this revenge. I don't like movies that typically start with revenge, because then it usually is coming from something unpleasant that I mostly don't like. But there's something else I was gonna say. Like the ghost scenes where like where the wife is still like, her presence is there. We're
so
all in the picture and things like that. In the beginning when the camera is just going off, and you're like, something awful is going to be in one of those pictures, and like, and as soon as she sees that like there's someone in the house with her, like my stomach dropped. I like pooped myself, and it was terrifying. And then the first reveal when he like comes in front of her tent wearing the mask, terrifying. I was like sent to outer space.
Also, that
there's
mask
just like
was pretty creepy too.
It was really creepy.
Like something was going on with the eyes. Like it's like all cracked.
Because it was like it was very unsettling. Also like that character was really creepy, but also like there's something upsetting to me about, again, like the way that the doctor husband like uses people and uses his responsibilities for evil. if you will, because first he basically like puts somebody in not like a position of power, but like puts them in a position where they are like they're able to have more freedom and flexibility despite potentially not potentially, but like they're a murderer. So like he's like, oh, but like you can have a job here. Like I was very confused about how that arrangement worked. But what I also didn't like was that apparently there's a cannibal here. And he's like, I'm just gonna let the cannibal out and like he's gonna eat. Like, okay, that's what kind of establishment are we running here?
Right.
And
Where's the rest of the staff?
where is
Who's watching these
everyone?
people?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
that also like just the logistics of like the administration were confusing to me.
Yeah.
But I guess I don't know how Ireland runs their mental health services. So like
Oh, fair.
that's a question for if you are a listener and you live in Ireland and you have the answers to these questions, please write us. I'm just curious.
Please let us know.
But yeah, I would say like as a mental health provider, I am always a little bit skeptical when like facilities or hospitals are featured and the nature of how these facilities are run. And it definitely just seems like, again, like this narcissist, like possible sociopath who is the head psychiatrist of this hospital is doing whatever the fuck he wants at this hospital. So
Yeah.
that's upsetting to me. But
Very
aside
much.
from that, this movie really slaps. I really liked it.
Yeah. No, I'll piggyback off of that because a lot of things that you said I agree with. I really enjoyed watching this movie. The opening scene, like you mentioned, was great, but even just how it was shot with the close-ups of the hand moving towards the door and then the title card coming on so you don't know exactly what happened and then you find out, oh, she
great
died.
title card. Yes.
Woo. Fantastic. Loved it. We love a good title card. The music was great with the build-ups and everything. The only thing that was my gripe, it was just a little eye-rolly, was kind of the trope of the blind person being the one that has like all of the psychic magical powers type thing.
Fair.
A little bit, I was just like, okay, whatever. But I love them, and Caroline Bracken playing both of those characters, fantastic.
That was cool.
So good.
That was very cool.
The acting was so phenomenal. It was great. Also, yeah, I love a creepy house. Y'all know I love a creepy house. So all of the exposed brick and everything, and not knowing how exactly the layout of the house was, because I'm like, wait, you were just over here, and how are you over here, and how did you get there? Like, what is this? But I'm into it because you just don't know where people are going to run or where things are going to be hiding and things. It just makes it the intensity of it, the tension of it build even more because you're like, I don't even know how this house is set up. So you're going to run and there's going to be stuff everywhere, ghosts everywhere. Wooden statue you mentioned, yes, was great. But about that wooden statue, what was funny to me was when the mouth was open and the girlfriend was kind of like looking at it. And I'm like, oh, she's going to put her hand in the mouth. She's going to put her hand in the mouth. And it was just such a funny thing to think about because I was thinking that too. I was like, I kind of also probably would have put my hand in the mouth.
Wait, so here's my question. My question. No, that's a good question. So one of my gripes is, would she really pull all of those things out of the head?
Oh my god,
no!
Like, that's one of my gripes,
absolutely not.
Would you, Nikisha? You're saying you would put your hand in the mouth. Like, would you be taking those things out of its head?
No, and what also got me was I know that she lives in the house of a doctor, but that was a very specific tool that she used to get all of that stuff out of the head too. And I was just like, no, I wouldn't go that far. But I might have just like, maybe put a flashlight in the mouth or like maybe a finger, but that's about it. And I'm like, okay, well, at least nothing happened there. And then because once you see the little pentagon shape on the top of the head, please, I'm not going anywhere near that.
That's true. That's
it's
a good
gone.
point. Yeah. No,
Nope.
sorry. I'm sorry for even asking that stupid question.
It's all good.
But people would do that. Like, know that. Oh my God. Again, this is a minor tangent, but I saw on TikTok that Art the Clown was at a Spirit Halloween store in New York City and was like scaring people, whatever. But he like pretended to be one of the statues, and some man straight up put their fingers inside of Art the Clown's mouth. And then he like did his like jump scare. But I'm like, why are you putting your fingers in the mouths of like what you think are props? Like that's weird too. What? So I do think that people would do stuff like this.
Okay.
Like weird people. They're weird
Fair.
people out there.
Totally fair.
So keep your hands to yourself. Please.
Yes. Oh my God. Don't touch babies. Don't touch bodies. Don't touch clearly
outlets.
haunted the outlets, clearly haunted, like possessed things. Like keep your hands to yourself, people.
Yeah.
Truly. No, I agree 1,000%. But it's just something about the brain that's like, but I have to touch this to know that it's real or to know that, you know what I mean? I mean, but I'm and not justifying these people, but I feel like that's kind of the general
It really
thing.
sounds like it.
I'm just trying to look out for the whole of the world, you know, like we'll see. But yes, either way, that wooden creature, very creepy. Don't go anywhere near it, especially if the sister's already rambling about like witchery afoot. I'm not going to touch anything that she brings in here.
No.
But great scene. The husband is at the absolute worst. We already talked about that. But one line we did not talk about, which I thought was really wild. He was trying to tell Ivan, the orderly, like how to kill her and to make it quick and fast. And he was like, because I don't want to hurt her. And Ivan was like, yeah, you just want her dead. I'm like, oh God, this is really insane.
Oh, I forgot that I really didn't like when he was like, can I like assault her? That was disgusting.
Oh, yeah.
I blocked disgusting things out of my head. I totally forgot that happened until you started reminding me of that conversation.
Yeah.
It was an intense conversation.
I wonder what the point of that was. Was the point to show that like the doctor still like to show some sort of like love or sympathy from the doctor? Like he's still a psychopath. I'm not arguing that.
Yeah.
Was that to show that like to give you a hint that this orderly was more awful than like is let on to be? Like I'm not sure what the point of that in that moment was, aside from making you feel yucky in general.
Yeah. I mean, because it was a whole creepy thing. He was talking about like knocking down crosses at his old church or at his old school, boys' school, and then it like goes into, I don't know, it was just really, really creepy. But that was a great scene. The scene with the bell was also great. I also liked, like Jamie said, that we don't even see him die, but we know that he's going to. And I just thought the tension building of him looking around and the camera switching from like watching him look around to his point of view looking around.
Yeah, sure.
And then the music, the happy music starts. And so you think like it's over, and then it cuts to the wider frame and you see the ghost. I just thought that whole sequence was gorgeous, and you don't even see anybody die, but my heart was pounding because you're just like, when is it gonna come? Because there was a couple of jump scares, like Jamie, the jump scare you mentioned also got me. There was another one that got me too. I'm forgetting which one it was, but I was like, oh, this is a little scary. This is fun. But yeah, I thought the movie had great tension building. I thought the acting was great. I really enjoyed it. There were some parts that I thought were slow, but it didn't take away from the overall pace, because you're, like Jamie said, you're finding out all the things at the end and what happened.
Yeah.
And that might even be, as I'm talking about it, like a gripe that's not even a gripe, really. But yeah, loved it. It was good. Brian?
Yeah, I love this. This is in my top 3 of the year as if it stands. I just thought this was outstanding. Nikisha, what I wrote, the thing that you just mentioned in terms of like slow in some places, in some movies I would say that that's being slow. In this one, for whatever reason, to me it was a place where the movie could breathe and let us take in everything we've seen, feel the vibes of the film, and then keep moving forward, because there were still engaging things happening in those moments, and because the movie was pretty subtextual in some places as well, I thought that was like a nice place to kind of like just absorb what these people are feeling, thinking, what may be happening with the plot. Nikisha and Jamie, you both also mentioned kind of like scenes and stuff like that. I thought that the shot composition of this movie was perfect. Everything from the scene that you're talking about, Nikisha, to the last scene with the bellhop, where just a close up of him, he does the bell, and then it's that like that off kilter shot where like the bellhop
Mhm.
is just like behind him, and you know it's gonna happen. I just thought like those were two truly exceptional pieces of filmmaking, and the whole movie in general is really well composed of certain um, shots, and cinematography overall is outstanding. And a lot of this movie is dark, and I never was struggling to see what was happening. It was lit
Same, yeah.
really well.
Mhm.
The acting was great, as you mentioned, and to me, Jamie said the thing that is the nail on the head for me. This movie doesn't treat the audience like an idiot. It doesn't
Mhm.
over explain anything. It lets you figure it out. It lets you kind of do all the drawing, the connecting the dots, but in a like a nice subtextual way. I think, and I know that I'm using that word a lot, but like there, there's no plot holes. You're just supposed to kind of like fill them in with your own imagination. Um, I thought that the camera sequence was fantastic. Um, the one where the girlfriend, I
The
think Yana
girlfriend
is
is
her
looking
name,
through. Yeah.
is looking through the camera. Just really good stuff. Um, I think this movie was the perfect length. It did not feel too short. It did not feel too long. It did not
Agreed.
overstay its welcome, and it gave me just the amount of information that I needed. Um, I found everything to be believable. Even the non-believable stuff. There's just something about the acting and the way that this movie, the world that this movie creates, was just everything just felt believable. And even when I started to not believe it, there were these throwaway lines, like I mentioned, like, oh, and she would have gotten the house. Like, oh, that's why you
Mhm.
did it. Because you wanted to keep
Mhm.
your real estate. Like, that's why. Um, I thought that was great. Um, I uh I liked that he really liked working there. And both from a psychopath perspective and from a doctor perspective, I thought that was an interesting layer that like he genuinely enjoyed working there.
Mm.
Whether it was the power, the ego, at one point you think it's because he's helping people. Like he enjoys working there from so many different layers based on what he wants you to see. And I thought that was really interesting. Um, the story of the bell, the story of Ivan, as you both mentioned, just clicked. A lot of things just clicked in this.
Yeah.
I love when at the end she's like calling out to her sister, and she's like, "We're connected," and you like
Mm.
between the two of them, they're taking down these people, even though in death. Like I just thought that was really powerful as she's just kind of
Mhm.
like lying there on the ground.
Yeah.
And another thing about this movie is very predictable. There's only like four characters. You knew the husband did it. You knew that he
Mhm.
probably hired that orderly to do it. None of that was a surprise. But this movie reveals all of that information organically and doesn't save it as a twist. Those weren't the twists of the movie. That was just the movie revealing all of the pieces that you kind of know in an organic way, and we weren't supposed to be surprised by that information. And I
Mhm.
think that was such a nice way to present all of that, because another movie would have presented all of that as a twist, and like I don't
Mm.
care, I knew this already, like I figured it out, because
Right.
like there's only five characters in this movie, like of course one of them was going to do it, and this and the other thing. I just thought that the small community of characters that they built and how they weaved it together in this movie was really well done. And listen, the jump scared, like Jamie said,
They
it like
did.
it worked,
Mhm.
but the vibe all through was creepy. I love a movie that like has a very specific point of view of vibe, and this one definitely had it.
Yeah.
Vibe.
My one gripe about this movie, my one gripe is, can you explain to me why they had a trap door? Like on the second floor, like she was even like putting it in. Like, did they just like
No.
did she die and like they never put in the ladder? Like that's fine, but like I just feel like that's the only reason I could think, is that like she died, the first sister. He doesn't really like he doesn't care about like doing the house up in some ways. They
Right.
just like
Right.
kind of never put that ladder in, and then he used it to his advantage. I just don't know
Well,
otherwise.
that's why I thought it was like a farm that like was converted into a home.
Yeah, it would have felt like
Mm.
though that would have been like where the hay would be, and they'd like throw the hay down, and like I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
Anyway,
don't
don't know.
know.
That's a great question.
I'm gonna look
this
up
movie was
country houses in
yeah,
Ireland.
just outside of
Ireland. Yes.
Cork.
Trapdoor.
Right.
But yeah, this movie was a absolute
That's
home run
funny.
for me.
So good. Okay. Okay. Well, anyone else have any last thoughts before we move on to our next section?
I didn't find anything helpful for my search. Instead, I got a Quora article question that says, is it true that Irish people build trapdoor nests under the ground and grab anyone that walks too close and eats them? And to
What?
clarify, the answer is no, that is not true.
Okay.
But also, I have no idea how I got here.
Got there.
Listen,
From
we're
just a
learning new
simple
things every
search.
day, and I appreciate
Why are people
Yeah.
writing things like this on the internet?
Because the internet is free to everyone and it shouldn't be.
that.
Oh,
Oh
God.
God.
Oh,
Okay.
Great. Cool. Awesome.
All right.
Love it.
Well, now that we cleared that up,
Jeez.
the Irish, they're not eating people. Let's move on to our next section. Brains.
Tasty. It was like, as soon as I said it, I was like, I need this to be separate from the weird article that I just got. Not tasty. We're not talking about eating people.
We're not talking about, even though it's in the movie, we're not talking about that. Oh God, that was right on the money, Jamie. That got me. Fantastic. Well, we've already kind of talked about this, and you've kind of alluded to this already, but could you please Billy or Stu Dr. Ted for us?
Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative. It's a scream, baby.
Billy or Stu?
Yeah, I think that good old doctor is definitely a Billy. He's
Yeah.
plotting and
Scheming.
doing all, yeah, he is scheming like no other, and yeah, even like even in the moment when he's being accused of murdering his wife, he still is scheming. He's still coming up with plans. So yeah, he's a schemer.
He is on
He
the
is a
money
schemer.
textbook. And
And-
he's in our top list of worst
Oh
doctors.
yeah, he's inducted into the Worst Doctors Hall of Fame. Welcome,
Mhm.
welcome, Dr. Ted.
Welcome, Dr. Ted.
Welcome. Paging Dr. Beat.
Oh
Emergency.
God. Now that's gonna be stuck in my head. Ugh.
Sorry.
Okay. And you already kind of talked about this too, but I would love for you to talk about how you felt about the representation of the psychiatric facility in this movie and discuss maybe why do you think that the state of mental facilities in movies are not well taken care of? Is that just a reflection of like real life things? Like, tell me about it. How do you feel?
I mean, again, for one, like there's nobody else working in this facility except for the doctor and the person the person who I think maybe at some point was also admitted into this hospital, who then is working as an orderly, who then is readmitted into the hospital. So that seems bad.
Yes.
But I mean, it's always they never look like hospitals to me. Like it's still a hospital.
Fair,
like it's
totally.
they're not like, I mean, from what I've seen and worked in and interned in, like they're not like rooms with like bars on the doors with like tiny windows where like you can't escape. Like
Yeah,
it's like
like a
it's always
prison.
that.
Yeah.
It always
Mhm.
looks more like jail
Mhm.
than a hospital. I mean, visuals aside, I just don't like the idea that like somebody who's plotting the murder of his wife is also like has the hands of or not the hands, but like he's supposed to be caring for all of these people, and that's concerning. But there's also like, again, going to like the narcissist thing, like I think there's like a power trip dynamic there where it's like I'm the person in charge. I'm the one that like is managing the well-being of all of these people, all of these like mentally ill people. Like this is very heavy with quotes. So like there's something that's like disturbing about, you know, how he is in this role and like directly relating to the people that he's supposed to be helping and supporting. And I think that's the most concerning, and it definitely makes you wonder like how many people potentially pursue any type of like mental health related thing, because of like their own, either their connection or something. But like, I do think a lot of people like I pursued my job and like career path because of my own experiences, but I also don't aim to like abuse any power that I have or
Right.
take advantage of people. Whereas like not all of us are good. Unfortunately. So
Unfortunately.
yeah. So maybe in that sense, like it's too real. But like here's
Yeah,
hoping
yeah.
that like not all of these places are being like that the oversight is a terrible person.
Yeah. And would it be a reality that someone who was released from a facility of that nature could also work there afterwards if they
Yeah, I
wanted
mean,
to?
I think
Yeah.
it depends on the facility and like
Okay.
the
Like there's no
process
rule
of
against it.
employment. Well, that's
Yeah.
why like I think it
Okay.
depends on like the process of employment because like as far as I'm concerned, like for most of the jobs that I've been employed at, I'm trying to think. There have been occasions where they will ask you about certain things about your past, like if you've ever like met with a mental health provider. But again, I think
Mm.
it depends on the job. Like I think when I worked like for the city government, I think that they asked more of those questions because it's like a government job.
Oh, fair.
Um,
Yeah.
and so they're asking you things, but also like I've had jobs where they've conducted background checks on me because I'm working with vulnerable populations. And so like,
Mm.
you know, they're trying to get this information. It's kind of like, you know how jobs might ask you like, have you ever been convicted of a felony?
Yeah.
Like I've been asked that probably in every single job that I've ever worked at, again just because of the nature of like the work that I've done, either working in a district attorney's office or within criminal justice. So they're always asking that. But I'm trying to think if like they've ever explicitly, I mean, like I worked in child welfare. I don't know if they would have hired me if I had like a criminal background.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
but and even within that, it's like, what's the nature of like the charges that you might have or like the convictions that you might have?
Hmm.
Are they misdemeanors versus felonies? Like there's all kinds of things. But there are a few times where they might ask you if you've ever been hospitalized, or meet with a therapist. And other clients that I've met with have also reported to me that like they're concerned about meeting with me because like they don't want their jobs to find out that they're in therapy essentially.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that that would
Mhm.
be a thing up for discussion of
Yeah,
whether or not. Yeah.
agreed. I mean, for one, I feel like it really stigmatizes mental health
Yeah.
when it's like, oh, we all have to be like really secretive about whether or not we're like receiving support for our mental health and wellness. Like
Right.
why is that a bad thing, right? Like if you're
Right.
actively like engaged in therapy or like on medication that is like helping you survive and thrive.
Yes.
So that's annoying. But also,
Wow.
yeah, it's like, why is that any of your business? And if I'm like
Exactly.
showing up to work and like doing my job and like, an effective employee, like why do you need to know things that are my personal information? Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that's even different from like personal health info. Like I think that like PHI, like stuff that's like HIPAA information,
Yeah.
is like there's more specific like personal health information that like is more identifiable to you, and like if that information is revealed, then then providers are on the hook for it. But
Right.
I yeah, I don't know where like the workplace kind of comes into play. But yeah, long story short, it definitely depends on like the job. There might be
Okay.
some hospitals that are like, you can't work here if you've been hospitalized, but I've never worked in like I've never been employed by a hospital, but I've interned in a hospital.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
No, and that's such an interesting thing too, just about the stigmatizing of mental health and within job related things. But even I had an experience where I was on the train to Philly, and a woman had an emotional support animal. A dog, it was a tiny
Mm,
dog, and the dog wasn't doing anything, but like the lady running the train or the conductor was like getting tickets and checking to make sure everyone had their tickets, and was like really getting in this woman's face about having a dog. And the woman was like, this is my emotional support dog. Here's my ticket that said that I was allowed to bring a dog like on this train. And then the conductor lady was asking her like, well, why do you need the dog? And the woman was like, I don't have to tell you why I need
Yeah.
this animal. It was just really interesting just to think like, why would that lady even ask that question? It's like, if she has a
Oh,
ticket
but that
and she can have a
happens
dog there.
all the time, Nikisha.
So
Literally all the time.
crazy.
Like, think about
Wow.
invisible disabilities, and like think
Mhm.
about people who, you know, use like all kinds of devices like a cane,
Yeah.
or like people who use wheelchairs but not like 100% of the time. And so then people are always like, why do you need this? Like, you were walking before. And it's like, there's always this like, I think that there's this very rigid way of thinking about like, you know, what do disabilities look like, and that it has to be this type of way. And if it doesn't fall into that, then people like just keep pestering and like they feel entitled to this information where it's like, again, it's
Yeah.
none of your business. Like, this has nothing to
No.
do with you, random person. Like,
It's not affecting you at
so
all.
yeah, no, at
Yeah.
all. And yeah, like nobody is entitled to that information of why somebody might have like an ESA or like a service animal.
Mhm.
Like but then it did remind me of a time that like we did get kicked off of a train because we had Ted, who's not an emotional support animal at all, but
Oh,
we got
but you
in
had it.
trouble from a conductor.
Oh, I didn't
Do
realize
you
that.
remember
Like,
that,
why
Brian?
can't you have a dog?
Yeah, I do.
Especially if the dog
I think
is
it
just chilling, like,
depends on the train, because I think you can with Amtrak, but I think you have to purchase like a pet ticket for
For
Amtrak to be
Amtrak,
able
you
to bring a
do.
dog.
For
Yeah.
NJ Transit, you need to have him in the carrying case, and we didn't want to put him in there. We did.
Oh,
We
because he
ended
was
up putting him in
crying.
there because he was crying. But we ended up putting him in there, and we, just went away from people. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And then
they
we
were
got
not
off the train
happy.
and we Ubered
Yeah.
Oh no.
like an hour.
Yeah. That's
Um,
ridiculous. I'm sorry.
no, I mean it is what it is. But
Yeah.
there was something that I wanted to say before when we were talking about like the Billy or Stu.
Yeah.
Because I mentioned the narcissist thing before.
Oh yeah.
I mentioned this like offline a really long time ago, and there was no situation that it had come up, and I just remembered it now because it's actually very appropriate.
Yeah.
One of our listeners had DM'd me asking a question about the difference between a narcissist and a sociopath.
Gorgeous.
This is a shout out for Super Chat Sarah, who
Hey,
had asked
Sarah!
me, hi Sarah, who had asked me, this is so long ago. This is back in March, and I promised that I would answer it. And then I don't think there was like anything that had come up
Yeah.
Right.
that was related to it, but like
Mhm.
now there is, because I do kind of feel like there is, I'm using these words not interchangeably, but it does feel
Mhm.
like a delicate line, as she had put in her question, and I agree with that. So like, what's the difference, and I guess like what leans in what direction.
Yeah.
So Billy or Stu, sociopath versus psychopath. So we've talked a little bit in the past about sociopaths. It, if you're looking at it from like a diagnostic perspective, it kind of falls more under the umbrella of like antisocial personality disorder.
Right.
But essentially it looks like or yes, like sociopath, psychopath are used more interchangeably, but there's like slight differences. Sociopath is a little bit more I would say like reckless, has a harder time like planning ahead, kind of like Stu is like along for the ride, as opposed to Billy, who presents as more of a psychopath. He has more of a plan, but both of them are like lacking empathy. Both of them are kind of like have a disregard for like rules. Perhaps psychopaths might have a not a better time, but like they're able to recognize the rules and kind of like follow them, but also don't feel like the rules apply to them.
Yeah.
So those are some of the signs of like sociopathy. And and again, like antisocial personality disorder is a personality disorder, and then sociopath is like uh like a way of identifying a grouping of symptoms, I guess, that isn't
Mm.
necessarily diagnostic. Like, I don't know if I'm describing that good enough, but that's the
No,
best
yeah.
my brain can come up with. And then narcissistic personality disorder is another personality disorder, and that's like the heightened self-importance, like really big ego, like feels very entitled to, like, be like being special, but like deep is like shame and insecurity, but again,
Mm.
it's like there's so many layers outside of this. Somebody might like have a inflated like sense of grandiosity, like I'm so important, um and also might lack empathy for others. So that's kind of where
Mm.
it can look a little bit overlapping, uh in terms of like why some people might use them interchangeably, but like it's not necessarily interchangeable.
Yeah.
There's there like somebody who has narcissistic traits might still have some empathy for others, whereas somebody who presents with like sociopathic traits usually doesn't have any empathy or like remorse for their actions.
Right.
Uh, Someone with narcissistic traits is usually trying to like stroke their ego, so like they're driven by like doing things that like strokes their ego and like how other people are perceiving them as it relates to like that inflated self-importance.
Hmm.
Whereas someone with like sociopathic characteristics doesn't really have any like care or regard for anybody else. So it's like less concerned about what other people think about them, unless it's connected back to like they are manipulating people for like their own needs, but not necessarily for their ego.
Yeah. No, that's great.
So I hope
You
that
need
makes
like a Venn
sense.
diagram for
I know.
for these two
Yeah.
words.
There's a lot
Super
of
good.
mental health related things that like call for Venn diagrams.
Absolutely. Love it. But we love getting to learn about it and getting specific in it, especially when you can put like actual characters that we're talking about in these movies so that you can see kind of a clear cut of like, yes, this person is planning or doesn't have empathy or whatever, and it's like that's why it fits into this category. But that's great.
Mhm.
My last question for you is there was a quote that said, there's nothing that can't be explained. And that was from a Dr. Ted. And it seems like a very kind of black and white way of looking at the world. Because he was just talking about in regards to spirituality. And when the sister was just talking about, seeing things and ghosts and all that stuff, and he doesn't believe in that thing in that way of thinking. So like as a therapist, how do you challenge a person who might have some of these kind of like black and white this or that points of view in life? And that's just me assuming that you operate in a gray area as a cognitive behavioral therapist. That's what my therapist talks
And
about a lot, is being in the gray.
yeah, I do talk a lot about being in the gray. I also, as a human, I often
Yeah.
am finding myself in the black and white, but
Mm,
strive to exist more in the gray. Um, you know, I think that uh, I think that there's also something like reassuring about the idea that like everything is explained versus leaving things more vague and just like not having a clear explanation. I think
mm,
that's another thing is like humans really crave like like an answer to everything.
yeah.
Leaving things like more unknown, I think, causes more anxiety. Um and like color me shocked that like a psychiatrist is like, no, everything is like science and like
Right.
there is an answer to this, like not like essentially not believing in the the supernatural, and the curios that the sister is involved with, or like her powers, or like anything.
Hmm.
So like there must be there must be an explanation for this, like feels very much like just not being open-minded to that, but also like really just yeah, like it needs to be like this or that. Like it's like way more rigid and structured, and the world
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily always fit into those
That.
categories.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is
Hmm.
also funny because this whole movie though like gives you all the answers to all the questions.
Yeah.
So it's just really funny how it's like in that sense of like, well, yeah, and also in this movie it's like, and here is the answer, even if it might be a spiritual answer or whatever the case might be, like you get an answer to everything that's happening in this.
Hmm.
Which is cool. Great. Well, that's all I have for brain. Should we rotten tomatin?
Rotten to molten.
Rotten
All right.
tomatin.
It's the Rotten Tomatoes game.
What do you think this has on Rotten Tomatoes? Jamie, why don't you go first?
I'm gonna guess an 84.
All right, Nikisha.
I'm gonna guess a 91.
This has a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
Yay!
The popcorn meter, which is the new version of what the
Audience.
viewers thought, like regular people thought, is a 77.
Okay.
But so the critics' consensus is an elegant and spooky ghost story punctuated with clever jolts. Oddity hews to the fundamentals of fright and achieves shout-inducing results. I mean, I think that's right, but also like that seems like a snobby way to put like we liked it.
Right. Just say you liked it.
Yeah. All right. What do you think this has on Letterboxd? 0 through 5 with decimal points. Nikisha, you go first.
2.7.
Oh wow. Okay. Jamie.
3.6.
It has a 3.4.
Oh, great.
3.4. And here are the most popular reviews. They're really long, so I'm not going to do them. But okay, this is the third most popular, and this is the only one I read because it's I wish I had a vengeful psychic golem wielding twin.
Also, yes.
Yeah.
Where is she?
Yeah. Also, Mike Flanagan wrote a review for this, and he loved this movie.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
I also, did y'all see Caveat? Because I didn't see that.
No, I have
No.
not seen that.
Okay. Because I think that's on Prime for free.
It's on Shudder as well, I think.
Oh, well, maybe it's Shudder because my Shudder's through Prime.
Oh, there you go. There it is. Yeah,
Yes.
sure. Great. Should we do the 4 S's?
Yes.
Sir.
Skull, scare, shakes, and suggestions. The Talking Horrors 4 S's.
Okay. The 4 S's are skulls, scares, shakes, and suggestions. We're going to go through skulls, which deals with mental health and human behavior. Scares, which is how scary was it. Shakes, how much you going to remember it. Is it a one and done? Can you shake it off? And then suggestions. Jamie, let's start with you.
Sure. So for skulls, I gave this a 7.
All right.
Because I think that there's, even with like the kind of magical element in this, I think for the most part people are peopling. There's a couple decisions that I'm just like, would I do this? I don't know.
Sure.
But yeah, I think it's fairly grounded. For scares, I gave this a 5 because I think it was pretty scary. Yeah, I think I jump scared. For shakes, I'm giving this an 8 because I keep thinking about this film. I mean, yeah, it's definitely pretty high on my list, so it's probably going to stick around in my brain for a while. I'm definitely going to recommend this to other people. I also had a friend recommend this, so shout out to another Sarah.
Oh, nice.
For telling me that I should watch this.
Yes.
What about you, Nikisha?
Cool. Yeah, mine are similar. I also gave a 7 for skulls because I thought that everything was pretty believable.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the girlfriend being like, I will never go in that house again. Goodbye. Do
Yeah,
not call
yeah.
my phone.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Scares, I gave it a 6 because it jump scared me a lot, and the whole ending scene the tension was spectacular. Spectacular.
Mhm.
Give me 14 of them now.
Mm-hmm.
And that video is just great. And Shakes, I'll give it a 7 because yeah, it was just a really well made, well acted, well filmed movie. Scary movie.
Mhm. Mhm.
I gave it a 7 for Skulls as well. I gave it a 6 for Scares, and I gave it an 8.5 for Shakes.
Nice.
I have 3 suggestions. I don't really have reasons why these are my suggestions. This is just kind of what the vibe it gave me. One is
Mhm.
Talk to Me.
Oh yeah.
Another one is Stop Motion that we watched earlier this year.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking about that
Mm.
too.
And then The Night House.
Oh.
They just gave me
Interesting.
those vibes. No, I don't have any specific correlations. It just kind of a vibe it gave me.
Mhm.
Nikisha, what about you?
Yeah, actually, you know what, Brian? I went off of the vibes as well, and it gave me Silence of the Lambs vibes for some reason.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Into it.
Interesting.
Jamie?
I first went with Oculus for vibes and also a haunted object, and then also Terrified
Oh
because that also scared the crap out of me.
Sure.
For sure. Great. Well, that wraps up our episode of Oddity. You can follow us on all of the social medias: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Help us get those numbers up, guys. And we're so close to 20K on TikTok?
Yeah.
So go give us a little follow. And producer Brian, where can they listen to us?
You can listen to us wherever you get your podcast.
Whenever, wherever.
YouTube. Hi, YouTube.
Hey.
You can find us
Hello.
on Spotify and then Apple Podcasts. Wherever you get us, rate and review us. 5 stars, please.
And thank you.
Thank you.
How do we want to end the episode, guys?
Should we all put our hands in our mouth?
Just for
No.
Jamie.
No, I hate it.
That'll be the next picture, the still picture that we do. It's just
Yeah.
hands in our mouths for Jamie. Thanks for listening, guys.
Bye.
Bye.